this is a very special and a very, very incredible moment to have, as Monroe has a plethora of information on how he went about by establishing himself and his music career within the music industry. As a very, very, very brief, believe it or not, summary of some of the accomplishments and accolades he's done, Monroe has been signed onto several labels, from E1 Music, Sumerian Records, Good Fight Records, Rise Records. You've opened up and collaborated on either a production or remixes under Meek Mill, Travis Scott, Lil Pump, Skrillex, A-Track, Arius, Riot 10, Borgore, Virtual Riot, JCO, A-Track, Flex Pavilion, Balo, Spaghetti, Mantis, Atlians, Bomber, Diplo, Crisley, Icy Stars, Asking Alexandria, Paul Wall, Lil Flip, Slushy, Boombox Cartel, Datsik, Styles, and Complete, Dirty Phonics, Blunts and Blondes, and Golf Clap. He has been producing for the last 15 years, DJing for the last 3, and with that comes the shows that he's been a part of. He's been part of Vans Warped Tour, Buzzfest. He's done shows with Spire, Stereo Live, Bell Station, Revention Center, and House of Blues. So that should be plenty enough for us to get an idea of the type of work that he's done. Without further ado, let's give it up for Chris Monroe.
What's going on, guys? So just to get into it, I guess I want to start out with how I got into the music industry. I went to my first Vans Warped Tour whenever I was about 15 years old, in 2005. And I was really into rock music at the time. I started sitting, there's your chair. I started listening to that kind of music, and I went to my very first Vans Warped Tour, and I remember seeing my favorite band at the time, like Chiodos. Sorry?
Yeah, Chiodos.
Chiodos. They had this really cool song called The Words Best Friends Become Redefined. But anyways, so I went to that, and I was like, immediately, whenever I went to my first Warped Tour, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to be up there performing, in front of all these people that look like kids just like me, you know what I mean? That were like wearing the same shit I was wearing, like listening to the same kind of music. They all had the same ideas that I had. They always I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. So immediately, I felt like I got to work. I was kind of like an outcast in my school. Like I played soccer and all that stuff, but there's very few kids at Friendswood High School that were in bands, quote unquote. There was like the Friendswood High School band, but there wasn't, anything like beyond that. So I met these kids who were actually, they came from other high schools, and I started like bringing my guitar to school, try to like get their attention, you know what I mean? Like try to be the cool kid. But I just realized now that made me look more like a loser.
You've always been the cool kid.
Yeah. No. So I met up with some kids, that like playing rock, and we entered our first battle of bands, and I'm not going to say we won or did amazing or anything like that, but I did learn what I should and shouldn't do, and I took it a little bit more serious, and I entered this Vans Warped Tour Battle of the Bands. So what that was is that we entered, it was back when MySpace was really big, and we entered this worldwide Battle of the Bands, and we had how you got, it was based off of plays, votes, and social media presence and everything like that. So we ended up winning the Houston round and got to play Warped Tour the very following year whenever I was 16, 2006. Yeah. So 16, we played at the NRG, what's now known as NRG. That year it rained out, so we played inside, and we played on the same stage as Paramore. Right after Paramore and right before this band called Parkway Drive. And so that placement right there got us a lot of attention, and so got us a lot of notoriety, getting noticed, I guess, period. And a lot of people just saw who we were, and it was a lot cooler because we were all high school kids, and I guess it had a lot of marketability to it. So we right after that got picked up by a manager named Mike Kelly. He ran this venue out in Spring called Java Jazz, and that's where we ended up playing every freaking month, or it seemed like every week, with bands like Sky It's Airplane, A Day to Remember, Devil Wears Prada, Circus Survive, Played shows with Thursday, Taking Back Sunday, Thrice, Recover, Amir, just so many bands. Anyways, so that management, he taught us what to do on the business side more. He sent us on our first couple tours whenever we were still in high school, all around the U.S. We got a van and we got a trailer. That was how we started out, and we saved our money on the recording end because we ended up learning how to record ourselves. It was back before Logic was really big, but we used Logic to track all of our demos and use those recordings to save money and to practice with, to go to bigger recording studios and sort of, I guess, not waste our money whenever we get to the big recording studios. Shortly after that, we found ourselves just graduating high school and still wanting to do this thing as a career. So as two of our guys moved away, we still kept the band together, and we took it a little bit more and more serious, and we ended up touring with bands like A Bullet for Pretty Boy, Asking Alexandria, We Came as Romans, and there's this other band, Under Oath, but it had the original vocalist from Under Oath before Spencer was in there, mainly in the Sons of Disaster. So we're, cool with all these guys and all these artists. Also in high school, I was working for this company called punkrockvids.com. So if you can, here, I'll just open up this. There's the Houston skyline. So punkrockvids.com. Punkrockvids.com was the music website to go watch all these live videos of all your favorite rock artists before there was a YouTube. And it was back in this day, whenever there was Pure Volume, and stuff.com. So here it is, if we go to staff, everybody here is, from Italy, Sacramento, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Francisco. And these people, they're doing huge crap now. Melbourne, Australia, New York. And then, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom and you see Christopher Deckard. I did all the interviews here in Houston, Texas. At the time, whenever they finally updated this, I was 18 years old. And so my thing was interviews. Now, that's the only reason why I did interviews is because going to this website every day, the thing that I saw that they didn't have were enough interviews. So I hit them up with an email, and I was like, hey, I introduced myself. I had access to pretty cool camera equipment. Was it GL2s, XL2s back in the day? And then you start to see my name pop up on this for Fearless Records. This was filmed and edited by Christopher Deckard. This is Secret Handshake, filmed and edited by Chris Deckard. Mayday Parade, Christopher Deckard. And there's, other pages and pages. So this is how I got my connections with linking myself to artists that I wanted to play with, but I didn't necessarily know how to gain access to them. There's ones on here where I did interviews with Boys Like Girls. Oh yeah, here's one with Boys Like Girls. Drop Dead Gorgeous, Scary Kids Scaring Kids, Maylene and Sons of Disaster. So all these connections that I built at this time, I was stacking my cards. I would stay in touch with them. I would talk to them on the daily. And, I didn't want to be that kid was yo, check out my band after I just did an interview. So I'd wait until after a couple interviews. And then I'd be yo, check out my band. Or I would strategically get us on a show with them, opening up for them by negotiating with their label, because I had the upper hand to put their band out on this publication that's nationally, looked at. So they would put my band on opening shows. Might be manipulative, but I think that's just the music industry. It's just like all about favors, give and take, and just about where you get lucky. Do you have any questions yet?
I do want to make a small point regarding favors in the music industry, because a lot of folks that are getting involved in the music industry don't really completely understand a lot of the dynamics and social nuances of how relationships are developed and how they work. Given your 15 years of experience within the music industry, what is the right way of approaching, whether it be favors or business, versus simply being straight out manipulative or facetious or even deceitful? Where do you define the role or that line?
I don't think there's really a line. I think if you're about to do business with somebody and they have something that you want and they see that that you have something that they want, that it'll be straightforward, like off the rip from the get-go. Best way to do it is, hey, I'd like to talk to you about something. I think that we could both benefit from it. And then if they respond, then they respond. And if they don't, then they don't. Sometimes just being in the right place at the right time, having an open ear, hearing about somebody else's needs. For instance, like Johnny needed some graphic work done. I mean, if it were me and I was trying to get on a show and I could do some graphic design, which I can, but if having the trick of that trade and maybe just going out of your way and shooting him a few like mock-ups of designs that you thought that he might be looking for, and having the work already done and giving it to somebody, as opposed to taking up this person's time and asking what they needed done. 9 times out of 10, a person at that level already knows what they need done, but needs people to basically be psychic and know what they need done, because that's what they want on their team, is somebody who can think for themselves and bring to the team like an organism, just working together.
I think a really good point to make is that the types of folks that we have here, we want them to serve as role models for others, right? Because it's not only that Monroe is good at what he does, but he's a really good dude. He's a really he's gold nugget of kindness, and you won't expect it and you won't really see it with his like tattoos and hard-looking bad boy demeanor. But the really good point to make is that Chris and I have separately, even before this workshop occurred, we've already established mutually beneficial relationships even between ourselves and with the other people that we work with. And so ultimately, when it comes to working in this industry, the trick is not only how can I personally win or how can somebody else personally win, but how can everybody mutually gain out of this interaction? And I think ultimately that creates an environment where you can have repeating business and repeating relationships with folks that'll say, yeah, I had a good experience with Monroe, I had a good experience with Saeed, with Jose, with Mitch, and ultimately I want to do that again in any other fashion that can develop. So thanks for that. Thanks for that insight. Now I want to explore a little bit more, and that was the early stages of your career. Where did you make, or when did you make your first dollar? What was that moment where you're like, holy cow, I think I might be able to start making a living off of this?
Well, those two moments happened so far between. Okay. So the first time that I made my first dollar, technically, would be from playing a show with a guarantee. So I guess we'll go into that a little bit. Okay, so now like transitioning over, fuck that. Not transitioning. If you're a live act or if you're a DJ, right? And you're going to go try to get paid for what you do, you have to be able to give that person or this company something that they don't already have or that they want. So let's say that I'm DJ, what is this called? I'm DJ Terabyte. I'm DJ Terabyte. I throw down hard at ShareSpace Open Decks every week for an hour, So book me at Spire this week. You'll never regret it. Spire is not going to book you. Spire isn't gonna look your way. Number one, because they don't know who you are and you haven't built a brand yet. Number two, they didn't reach out to you or something that you wanted. Now, if it's mobile DJing that you want to do where you can play 5 hours of wedding music, then that's something that you have to offer this consumer, because they're looking for a DJ that really, they don't care who they are or that doesn't have a name. Even though you might be DJ Terabyte, they'll never say it, throughout their wedding. Your job is to play their wedding music from the hours of 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. You'll collect your $500 check at the end of the day, probably, something like that. But the only return business that you'll get is that really good wedding DJ. If you did a good job and you didn't play your DJ Terabyte set that you play weekly at Share Space.
So a lot of it falls on making sure that you're hitting the right market in order to make money. And so a lot of folks get this impression that, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and quit school, mom and dad. I bought this small little controller and I'm ready to become next Tiesto. Where is the failure of where's the failure of foresight in that equation?
I don't even know what failure or foresight means.
Okay, let me rephrase that. What are some obstacles that come across when somebody says, hey, I want to become a DJ, I want to make a living as an EDM producer?
I couldn't really tell you where that failure comes from, because I wouldn't know. Like, as opposed to, hey, I wanted to quit music. Like, I did turn down my soccer scholarship to pursue music full time, but I never had it in my mentality that I was going to fail at it.
Let me rephrase that. I understand where you're going with that. My mistake. How about there is a series of steps that you've taken in order to be able to sustain yourself,
right,
to pursue a career in the music industry, right?
Okay.
Aside from you just working as an EDM musician,
right,
there are other facets that you've explored. Tell
right.
us a little bit more about those facets.
Graphic design. Whenever I would tour or I was on tour, so I was doing graphic design in high school while I was trying to build my band and my brand, only because I didn't have the money and I knew that I wanted things a certain way, and I wanted to learn how to do all these things like GIFs and Adobe Photoshop, and I had all these resources and these tools around me, like at school, that there should be no reason why I couldn't, make these graphics. I sucked at them at first, but I just kept doing it every freaking day. I would lock myself in the video lab, and I would be on Adderall, you know what I mean, because that's what I was prescribed to, and I would just knock out so many graphics a day, and then I couldn't wait to get home to show them to my bandmates, or I would like email them or text message them during the day, be like, what do you think about this, with my armpits sweating, you know what I mean, the Adderall drip. Like, what do you think about this? And I'd be like, trying to go get the Wi-Fi at the park on lunch break, smoking cigarettes, and sending stuff to, different artists that I was working with, that I might have met from just doing an interview, but like was just like, hey, I can make some graphic designs for you guys, just little stuff like that, and getting good enough at, Photoshop later when people start asking, hey, who did this for you? And for me to say I did, then that opened up another realm of things where I didn't ever have to pay for graphic designs, or I trade favors for other graphic designers or artists, and a lot of people were just like that in our industry. There were people in bands who had a specialty, like my good friend Albert, he did music videos. So he couldn't do necessarily the graphic design part, and sometimes he needed more cameras, so I'd trade favors for him. Hey, come shoot our music video for free. And of course that happened all the time, but I would do their t-shirt designs and everything like that. And people that had merch companies. I also started making money more in DJing. Whenever I got into DJing, I never did it for the EDM side. I loved the Midtown scene, and I loved going out to these nice clubs, seeing these people spend all this money, and the DJ being the center of attention, and playing music that I like pop music. I didn't know who, I couldn't tell you one song by Skrillex. I couldn't tell you one song by anybody at all. DJ Snake maybe, or Calvin Harris. And that was just in 2015. So I wanted to be like a headliner club kind of DJ, open format, because that's who I saw was making money at the time. I started out going to the White Girl Wasted Wednesdays and the weeklies in the Houston scene, because I came from the Houston scene from rock music, and the way that we all learned who each other were starting from the bottom and working your way up and meeting people and shaking hands and figuring out who does what, so you don't step on anybody's toes, and you're all like an inner working web.
Yeah.
Like,
And for a small anecdote is that White Girls Wednesdays is a thing that happens here at Houston Underground. It's open decks. And so the point that I'm making is that Monroe, when he started DJing, he got involved in his local community with anything regarding open decks for an opportunity to play out. These opportunities tend to be everywhere, at least in every major city. So if you're looking to model after Chris Monroe and even getting started as far as learning how to DJ or getting yourself out there, I wouldn't recommend open decks a place to learn, but rather a place.
Well, yeah, they weren't really open decks, but it was a place where you should have already like learned how to DJ,
right,
and then you can get on a slot there,
right,
if you know somebody.
So after you got familiar a little bit with more of the DJ circuit, you then started working at Midtown bars.
Yeah, so fast forward, so I was doing like more of the EDM stuff, but I was like transitioning over into clubs. I got booked at this place called Aura, and it was like right next door. And me and my friend Evan, we were the first like dubstep like DJs that they ever had come in there. And I'd been playing, all these dubstep shows with him, and I brought my flavor to it a little bit, and which was like, I love Diplo and like Jack U and all that shit at that time. So I was just playing a lot of top 40 remixes, with a lot of rap, hip hop, and then dubstep breakdowns. What was that?
Playing dubstep?
Oh, yeah, playing dubstep. So we went into this club and we killed it, but we were playing all this dubstep music, and at first people were just like kind of thrown off and didn't know what was going on. And then later we just kept getting booked at these Midtown clubs doing what we were doing at that club. It's just playing a whole bunch of dubstep, like dirty dubstep, and then I'd be able to throw in a couple like top 40 hits in between. So that worked out, and that was like right before Spire had opened. And I'd worked at a hair salon with this guy named Keelan, and he was the resident over at Clay and at Spire. Well, before Spire opened, there wasn't Spire. So he was a resident over at Clay and Concrete Cowboy and Clutch Bar. But he opened up a new club called Bell Station, and they were looking for a DJ there to fill in some nights. So I ended up getting that gig. I killed it for him like the first night, and then that led to like a 1.5-year residency. And after that, that's how I learned how to DJ more like Midtown style, more top 40 style, right, instead of just dubstep.
And so a path of progression is that one opportunity led to another, right? It's like you started in one place, you never expected to be on maybe even the same side of the town, but maybe on the other side of the street, and then that led to one friend, a connection, and then another opportunity that presented itself.
Right.
Where you are now, as far as your musical career, you spend a lot of time in the studio. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do there.
So at the studio I work at, Sugar Hill, I spend most of my time tracking and producing music. As far as tracking, I'll work with artists, rappers, country artists, pop artists. They come in and they have a project or something that they want to get done, and we either knock that out, or they come in and they like something that I've done or heard something that I've done, and we just do co-writes, and we write songs together.
Very cool. And so how does monetization, or how do you make money that way? Is it per song, per contract? Is it based off of royalties? What's the relationship there?
It's based off of it's track to track basis. If it's an artist that you work out an agreement with previously, that's one thing. If it's through the label, that's another thing.
How is it different between, like, let's say an individual artist versus a label?
Okay, so if a label comes in and they have an artist that they want you to work with, then they're going to do it like the artist really isn't going to be involved in the negotiations, just between you and the label, and that'll be like either through points, which your record sells. Like each album that an artist puts out has a certain number of points. You can make it 1 through 50. So each person that's involved in this process gets a number of points designated by an agreement between the artist, label, and the producer.
Okay, and these points are based off of like the amount of involvement or the amount of work put in by that person?
You can negotiate. So,
Okay, so they're
you can
negotiable.
so you can actually, as a producer, if I know that this artist has, 50 points on this one project, but and they want me to do more work than I know that it's worth, then I can negotiate having 30 points on this album for no matter what reason. It's just that and now they only have 20 points to work with. Yeah.
And so how does this point system then, how does that then affect or correlate with how much you're getting paid?
How much the song makes.
Okay.
So if it's better to do it on a single than it is to on an album, if that makes sense. So say like I make a hip hop beat and Blueface wants it, or the label wants it, his label, the dude that did the Tatiana. Okay. So I see that this has more chance of going viral than being like an actual album hit. Then I would want to go on the point system, okay. So no matter how much it took to make this song, I'm going to get 30 or, what was it, 3 or 50, 60% profit over what it makes, like 60% of the points. And that's how that's broken down. Because like one record can only make so much money, but it's based on album sales. So if you sell a song for $1.29 on iTunes, so that $1.29 is broken down into percentages already for who gets what. Right. So each one of those, that becomes part of the point system. Does that make sense?
So the points themselves allow you to get a number or a percentage off of the total amount of sales for the song itself.
Yes.
Excellent. And so in the realm of, royalties versus one-time, deals or agreements, do you have any recommendations on maybe some experiences that you've had of why it might be better to go for one versus another, or maybe a combination of both?
It just depends on how involved you are in the project. If you're looking to just like get in and get out, you can get paid off the project as well and not worry about the points or percentages. You just sell outright the song. Say like if you a good way for if I were a producer for EDM or any kind of genre, would try to get placements in video games, commercials, anything like that where that your music is going to be like on a loop or constantly put into something that really, I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, but that there's so much of that there's a bigger market for it than like all these video games. Think about the video games that are on your Android App Store or like iTunes App Store. All these games, all these programs, all these apps, they have to have this background music for menus or little sounds that are used to transition to the next screen. It's all about getting the placement for that. Or anime. That's another plug right there. And Houston is one of the biggest anime like studio centrals in the world besides.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I don't like anime, but I do know that much about it.
So you're saying that the idea is in order to kind of maximize the amount of energy and effort that you're putting into songwriting, the direction of maybe apps or maybe even like commercials, or you specifically mentioned platforms in where it has looping music, that those are the best way. Why? Is it because like you make more through royalties, or they pay out more as first time, or
I would say for the demand of it.
Okay.
Where there's basic rules of economics, supply and demand.
Okay.
Where there's more of a demand, that's what people aren't tapping into now. So that's why I said I would try to venture over in there, because they're getting these loops from like 8-bit, you know what I mean? Like programs that are just like making music, and I just see a lot of friends getting placement that way.
Good to know. How have you made the most amount of money? Is it like based off of like DJing? Is it based off of studio time? Is it based off of like royalties? What has been the sweet spot for you so far?
Royalties, royalties, and DJing downtown. So, as far as royalties, the bad thing about that is that you're paid out quarterly.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's not like you get paid like every 2 weeks, like a real job or anything like that. So to keep me afloat in between all those times, even though I'm stupid bad with my money, DJing was my other savior. I was making about $1,100 a week DJing last year, and I didn't get any opportunities to play a lot of stuff that I do now, like doing a lot of dubstep. I was doing a lot of stuff that I didn't want to do, but that was just the
Name of the game.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that that's a really interesting side point to make, is that you can make a lot of money as a wedding DJ. You can make a lot of money as a bar DJ, but there is a schism, or there is a divide between your
Integrity.
exactly right. Because I mean, it's the phrase is, it's very easy to sell your soul to the devil in the music industry, and very easily you could give up your artistic pursuits just simply for DJing. And once again, it's not to say that it's better or worse. Like some people, they really enjoy wedding DJ or they enjoy bar DJing.
Right.
Where do you fall now? Are you in the process of developing yourself as a brand for EDM? Show us a little bit more about your personal career on the EDM side.
So I'm gonna go to this website called Digital DJ Pool. So whenever I started, God damn, that's the name of the song. Song of the day. What's today's date? Yeah, that's today's. Okay.
25th.
So how many of you do you guys DJ here? Where do you guys get your songs from?
Artist Union, SoundCloud, Bandcamp,
Bandcamp, Beehive,
Beatport.
Beatport. So you pay for that, right? Who else? Do you get it from BPM Supreme? You have before. Do you pay for a subscription? Okay. Okay. What about you? You DJ, right? So where do you get your music?
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud. So y'all use so you guys use like, no shaming I guess, like, but you use SoundCloud songs when y'all play out live?
I mean, SoundCloud signs are fine if you download them directly, just not so long as you're not ripping them.
Okay.
Right.
Is that what you mean? Oh, so that's what you meant, like, okay. Right, like, yeah.
Artist Union.
Artist Union.
Dropbox.
I like Artist Union.
Artist Union is great.
Artist Union's pretty dope, actually, because you can get the originals for songs on there.
Yes.
And
really
like
good
it's through the
remixes, too.
artist. Yeah, super good. And I go and like I get like lost on the you might like this. So that's another good point. Like you said, you didn't have a really good foundation. You don't know where to get your music. I was the same way at first. You know what I mean? Like I only had it whenever I started DJing. I only had like Childish Gambino, Drake, all this stuff that I listened to every day that I had the CDs to, you know, that I had transferred onto my computer. So then I learned about record pools. And then I learned about how much record pools cost per month. So I don't
Just
know.
a moment. What are record pools for those of us that might not know?
Record pools, this is one that I use that I'm a curator for. It's called digitaldjpool.com. Record Pool is a website that you can go to and subscribe to monthly or yearly, annually, for a certain amount of money, and you have access to all this music. So I can go in here and say I want it, or whatever. What is this? Right? And I can go to view full page. And then it's going to show me all these songs, but then a lot of them have it. They'll show me the file, the bit rate, the key, genre. It's always going to be at 320 kbs, right? Shows you how many likes it has. I can give it a like. I can download it. Boom, goes straight to here. Well, I'm going to keep this organized. All right. Or you can add it to a crate. Say I want to create a new one. Here's someone I already have. Chris Monroe, November Selects. House, Latin, September Downloads. Chris Monroe, Hurricane Harvey. I didn't mean to add it to that one. But that was a Hurricane Harvey benefit crate that that this website, whenever Hurricane Harvey happened last year, I was featured on here from being from Houston, and my crate was made on the front page of, like, you know, what's hot or what the DJs are playing or listening to. So if I go to the home page, this has all my, like, the featured DJs. These are all the labels that are on here. So say I want to go to Circus Records. Like, I'm sure you guys know about Circus Records, right? From being a EDM record label. So if we go to Circus, let's see. They just put in a Lose It original. This is a dubstep song. Cartel, Axel, Dr. P, original mix. Conrack, Flux Pavilion featuring Cray. Cray Mac, my bad. And that was released March 8th. So these are just all stuff put out by the labels individually, but this is where I learned how to, if you're good at producing or not, if you just want to try it, what I did was I started curating to the record pools. So these are my uploads. These are all the edits and everything that I've ever uploaded that are on here on this record pool now that other people can download. So in exchange for that, they give me a free account for life, basically. So this is, I should say, so this is a song that I had uploaded. This is a Questions Chris Monroe remix. So now this website gives me all the radio stations that my remix is played on. And then it shows me the 530, hold up, where'd it go? 530 clubs and bars reach from California, New Jersey. I don't know where Turku FI is.
Florida. It's Florida.
I don't think that's Florida.
Turku, Florida.
Turku, Florida?
I think so, but that's a lowercase I. Right?
So it'd be like more of a country, right? Like Shibuya, Japan.
Yeah.
Bremen, Denmark.
Somewhere else. So this keeps track of where your tracks have been played internationally.
Right. And what DJs mess with it? Mr. Collar Park, Columbia Records, fuck with this track. Cisco Kennedy, all these artists. And then this shows me everywhere in the world that my track is played. Let's see. I guess that's doubled over again. I was like, damn, they don't love me over there. But it's just the world. Like, fuck the U.S. Just kidding. Just joking. Anybody can upload the track. It doesn't guarantee that it will get picked up. So they'll let you know, obviously. So it'll say, like, peak position. This one peaked at 13 out of 37,273 songs on there.
It's pretty good. It's passable.
So, and it does that for all my songs. My Bodak Yellow remix. No.
So this is a way that you began to establish yourself in the EDM scene and the EDM community is through these remixes.
As well, yes. And with the labels and producers.
Aside from getting featured on these, like, what type of other doors has this opened for you?
Getting annoying messages through other labels or artists, like sending me messages.
Sliding in your DMs?
Yeah. But I mean, like, some of them are cool, some of them are not. I wasn't just going to, like, keep that open, though. Bear Grylls, see? New song. Heavyweight. That's another cool thing is that they'll give you the instrumentals, the acapellas, all the stuff to make remixes to them as well. And you get, like, exclusive mixes that aren't put out in
The public release.
public release, right? There's another one like for trending.
Did you need permission for the remixes?
Nope.
A lot of so some
If it's
remix
open
competitions-
source, like if it's off of this, then you can use anything that it gives you. There's one that I have. It's called. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just had a quick question. I see that like most of the songs and music on here is mostly MP3. Whenever you do produce your tracks, usually have them at a higher rate, or usually what you're making and what you release is always just like usually compressed into an MP3 file.
Let me go ahead and repeat that question into the mic, just to make sure that our audience hears it at home. He was asking about the bit rate or the quality and format of the tracks that he remixes. Are they in MP3, or does he does he make any changes to the format before he makes remixes?
It depends on the record pool and how much bandwidth that they have. A bigger one like that, they're only required that you do it in MP3 format, but you have to do it in 320 kbs, which is understandable. Like 320 kbs 441, not 448 or whatever. How do you say that? What is the 4800 like megahertz
Yeah, 44.
for the? Is it bit rate or sample rate? Sample rate. Yeah, 40. So 441 would be the sample rate that you needed, and then for bit rate, 320.
320.
Yeah,
Yeah.
320.
And so for those of you that might not understand exactly what that means, it's like the quality. So it's like you could have a movie in 1080p, or you could have it in 720. And so the difference is tangible. It's still the same movie, but it looks differently because the quality is different. Same thing with music. General standard for the music industry is at least an MP3 320. If you're super really like bourgeois, pinky up about it, you can get what are called FLACs, which is it's flossless audio. It's uncompressed audio. And I don't really know if that's. I've seen some CDJs have issues playing FLAC.
Yeah.
Audio, so MP3 is kind of safer.
The CDJ Nexus 2000s play FLAC,
Okay, good to know.
and I think the the XDJ MK2s 1000s.
Yeah.
Follow up to it. I know earlier I said like Beatport.
They give you waves as well.
The waves
Yes.
and the metadata for the actual
FLAC
depths.
in the FLAC.
Right. And so I don't know if that's an area of like where you're like, should I make that decision where I put it depending on my quality or my audience, or if you run into that issue?
I mean, if you're a producer uploading tracks on a Beatport, then you should be able to have all that stuff like at your like disposal to bounce it down that way. Where that kind of runs into problems like now what separates Beatport from BPM Supreme or Digital DJ Pool is that you have the potential to put out other people's tracks too, so you didn't necessarily get the versions at FLAC, you know. So you can't really, you can take you can't request anything like that. No, I'm saying you can't take a file and make it bigger than it is. You technically can, but it's not gonna sound like it. Here's an email that I have from BPM Supreme, and it just talks about all of the guidelines. So it says, blah, 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 blah. We strongly suggest you send us your records in the following format. WAV or MP3. We strongly... Chris, read it for me.
We strongly suggest that you send us your records in the following format, WAV or MP3. We strongly suggest that you make sure your record is 320 kilobits per second. Please try your best in sending us the following versions: clean, dirty, instrumental, intro clean, intro dirty. Keep going.
Yeah.
Questions and answers. How long does it take before you put my song on that site? BPM Supreme cannot guarantee that your song will make it to that site. Second question, how much does it cost to get my song on your site? It's free. BPM Supreme does not charge any artist or label for any record submissions. What email should I send out my music moving forward? Email for BPM Supreme.
So if you guys want that email, that's one place to send your remixes to. They have a lot of like trancey stuff that they can use.
Why you make eye contact?
We have a trance artist in our crowd.
No.
So it says right over here, How much does it cost to get my money on the site? And it's free, and so equally you don't get paid, but you get what are called clout tokens, which give you the ability of being able to connect to other artists because they'll just simply see
Right.
your work and say, "Wow, this is something that I may want to not only play, but I may want to collaborate with this person."
If you go on like, a 3-day writing binge, you know what I mean? Like somebody's done with me over here. Wasn't writing. Should have been. But you can knock out like 10 tracks or 10 remixes to top 10 songs. You know what I mean? On the charts right now. You upload all those songs at one time and they all get accepted. Then you're going to see your name and other artists like Diplo, Dylan Francis, DJ Snake, who go to these record pools too to get their remixes. They're going to see your name consistently up on these charts. Like, Where Are You Now? Ultrist remix, which would be really good. No.
Yeah, there's something very powerful to be said about these types of platforms because not only can they be used only for the purpose of downloading music, but you can use it in order to promo yourself, given that your craft and given that your ability is there, right? Outside of BPM Supreme, what other, I know that you have some type of sponsorships of some companies that have paid attention to you and said, hey, we want to go ahead and give you some support. How did those relationships happen and how have they affected your career for the better?
Okay, so let's pull up my EPK real quick.
You use them in bootlegs?
Yes.
So before we jump into the EPK, go ahead and share with us, Monroe, what is an EPK and why is it important?
Should I go from like the Wikipedia?
So it stands for Electronic Press Kit. And
Okay,
an
there you go.
Electronic Press Kit is, it's the closest thing to a resume that you'll have as an artist or as a musician. And so the purpose of an Electronic Press Kit, or EPK for short, is to allow companies, managers, promoters, booking agents, potential sponsors, pretty much anybody an opportunity to gain insight of who you are as a musician, the reputation that precedes you, and why they should care. Why should they even bother spending any time listening or paying attention to your brand? And so ultimately, it is very much like a resume. It's the closest thing that you'll have to a resume. Having a presentable EPK and a very visually pleasing one can go a very, very long way. As the age-old, in corporate companies, you'll have a lot of just white text, black font, maybe some small little flair here and there, but it's very formal. In the music industry, it's not necessarily only about information, but it's about a certain level of flair. And so Chris right now is going to show us what we're actually going to see right in front of us, how he set up his EPK. You can tell that right from the get-go, it's very visually pleasing. It's very easy on the eye, very easy to perceive. You have to understand that a lot of these folks that are going through EPKs go through a lot of them. And so it makes it a lot easier to see something that's visually pleasing, something that's eye-catching, versus just a block of text. This is what I've done. Here's who I am. Please book me. This makes you stand out a lot more. Go ahead and walk us through what kind of information you have on here, Monroe.
So this is an EPK that my manager had made me make a revised version to. This is another important point. You want to know who you're trying to push this EPK to. If it's a company like for endorsements, or if it's to booking to get booked at different clubs, which is this one, which is what this one was used for, is to get booked for clubs all over the U.S., but clubs like Spire and like Clay that only book top 40 DJs or open format DJs that aren't specifically looking for like Datsick or like Skrillex to come in, but DJs that can play a 3 to 4 hour set but are still well known and that have a fan base. So where that comes in, so the first thing, obviously, I have my logo right here, so I make it noticeable. Right here it says you can hear my exclusive remixes and club hits exclusively on Digital DJ Pool, which we were on earlier. And the reason why I put that on there is because I can show them what radio stations in their city is playing are playing my remix specifically to the song by like Chris Brown. Because a lot of cities have the radio station like 92.1 and like 97.9, well, not 97.9, 93.7 or 92.1 that play like EDM top 40
Top 40s,
remixes.
yeah. And so the purpose of that, of course, is to show his relevancy even in local areas where he's not playing, of how his influence has stretched out to the many different parts of the world and in the parts of the U.S. Can I go ahead and read out your
Yeah, go ahead.
your bio? Okay. About Chris Monroe. Monroe has achieved major label is an achieved major label recording artist, DJ and producer from Houston, Texas. Born the grandson of blues legend B.B. King, music inevitably runs through Monroe's veins. The influence Monroe obtained through music derived from deep musical roots that were reflected by blues, country, R&B, rock and roll. Monroe found himself touring the nation before the age of 17 in excess of 250 shows a year, including the iconic rite of passage, Vans Warped Tour. By the age of 18, Monroe signed a recording contract with the New York-based major label E1 Music. Monroe produces and performs hits that chart Billboard and are played globally. Sonny Moore, also known to the rest of the music world as Skrillex, urged Monroe to expand his talents and passions with the masses. Monroe's potential and hustle immediately caught the attention of Houston's club owners and promoters. Before we move on, did Sonny Moore really like reach out to you personally and be like, "Yo, dog, you really gotta continue your hustle"? Did that really happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were touring together in rock bands, and that's how I've known him.
Yeah, because
I
he was
didn't
from
know him
First
as
to
like
Last.
from First to Last. So I didn't really know him like as Skrillex. So I went away and I was like gone out of the whole music industry and didn't do music or anything for 2.5 years. And I was getting sober. And I spent all that time getting sober, and then I got back into music. So like I was like not even in tune with anything going on. I'd done Warped Tour, I'd done all that stuff, and then just kind of just like dipped off the face of the planet. I came back, I started doing music again, but I was just more like managing, and then ended up playing in a band. And then I honestly started working with country bands more. So I got a vacation financed by this country artist to Vegas. I wasn't really hanging out with the country band the whole time, but I had a friend that was in town who had a residence at the Wynn, and the Wynn just they have this nightclub called Excess, and or Encore Beach Club. I'm tripping, and Skrillex, and it happened to be DJ Snake's birthday, and I didn't know who DJ Snake was at the time. I just saw some funny dude who had a funny accent wearing sunglasses at night, and we were just up at the hotel and like just chilling. Like went up to the suite and we were just talking about music. It was probably fueled by a lot of other things. How we stayed up, and we were just chilling and talking, hanging out. But he was just like, man, fuck all this band shit. You just need to do it for yourself. And you got the talent. You can do it. He's like, I'll help you in any way I can. And he has, in like ways that I can't really talk about, but you'll hear about it whenever the timing's right, because everything's all about timing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like you could sit on a feature for a minute and then release it like 4 years later and it still be a banger. For sure.
Very cool. Go ahead and walk us through the rest of your EPK, your profile. So we have over here, it says residencies, and he's got social media links on the left. Are those clickable by any chance?
So I made them on one version. They are on a PDF version.
Right.
That's what I would do if I were making an EPK for myself or like for you. If you guys are knowledgeable in how to make hyperlinks, I know it's really easy to do that through certain apps and, YouTube videos. But basically, my Twitter, you can click on it, double click it, and an email. Especially it's super important if you're sitting in an email format because it's PDF and not just like a JPEG. You can double click it, it'll go to my Instagram. Double click it, it will go to my Twitter and such. And then this just shows, a little highlight of my Instagram or Twitter or whatever that is.
Right.
And then so those are endorsements down there.
So on the left-hand side, he has social media links and
Right.
a profile picture of one of his social media accounts, endorsements at the bottom. And then over here in the main kind of focus is residencies. So
Right.
it's all the different places that he's played out. We see Spire Nightclub, Bell Station, Stereo Live, South by Southwest official showcase, the years that you played, Revention Center, Club Rio, The Hive. I mean, there's just so many in here. And then right at the bottom, he has the has supported. And so this is the artists that have supported your tracks or that have supported your music.
No, these are artists that I've opened for.
Oh.
So I've played shows and opened for every single one of these artists. And now on the other one for the feature, like that I've collaborated with, that's
Those are the
where it
ones.
would, yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. So specifically in Monroe's EPK, and by the way, there's just kind of like a resume. You can do it in any fashion that you like. If you have a lot of artists that have supported your tracks and that have played them out, you are more than welcome to say, hey, this person has supported me. Here are the artists. In this specific instance, this is what's called direct support. And so in direct support, Monroe has Skrillex, A-Track, and a lot of the artists that we had discussed right when we first started this workshop. Is there any particular like train of thought that you follow when creating an EPK or when putting one together? Is there something specifically that you always kind of keep at the top of your mind?
Yeah, exactly. What am I making this for? Like,
Who is it for?
It's kind of like, yeah, whenever you're making a resume, you have your resume and you have your cover letter, but specifically you're not going to send it to, if you're in the oil and gas industry, you're not going to send it, okay, I don't know the oil and gas
So
industry.
if you're in the oil and gas industry, you're going to sculpt your resume for somebody that speaks the language of oil and gas versus you applying for a tech company that are specifically focused. I mean, your skills could be the same, but the language that you're using, the image that you're portraying is going to be sculpted towards the audience.
Or if you're trying to go for Pantheon instructor or a Guitar Center instructor, you're going to change it that you know retail knowledge for like native instruments or, Akai or whatever.
And then versus Pantheon, that you're just a really good role model and want to do things good for the community. Like that makes sense. Regarding EPKs, we do have something very, very special for you guys, not only here that are here with the audience, but then separately online. We will be able, in fact, Monroe, if you'd like to tell us, he is going to be presenting what type of special gift for us, Monroe?
We'll have access to a digital EPK. I'm going to make like a template. Basically, for anybody who wants one, it's going to have the boxes. Well, I guess I can just open it in here. It'll be a PSD document for Photoshop, and you'll be able to input your own pictures. That's a background.
So you're pretty much getting the skeleton in order for you to be able to create your own EPK, of course, using your own information and using your own accolades and accomplishments rather than Monroe's, as much as we'd all like to be blessed by kind words of Skrillex. Very cool, very cool. So now that we've covered a little bit on the section of EPKs, how essentials have EPKs been towards the development of your career? I mean, how often have you turned to these and gotten an opportunity as a consequence of these?
Every time. Okay. Every time that it's like your business card. It's your literal career, what you want to put out there on one sheet, and you get one chance to present it to somebody in the way that you want, and it's gotten me multiple endorsements, anything that I needed from in-ear monitors to guitars to strings to software that I needed.
So what's interesting is that sometimes the compensation that you've received isn't always financial, but it's through gear and it's through equipment or memberships or sponsorships. So that's really fascinating because it's like in this industry, you could almost look at it as almost like a mutually beneficial relationship, right? BPM Supreme or any tech company, any audio company could say, hey, this is somebody that we support. Here's some free gear, right? That would come out to be a lot more advantageous to them rather than them just simply giving you money, because now next time that you're on stage and you're sporting those brand new Beats headphones or Audio-Technica headphones or whoever's sponsoring you, then an image will be portrayed, hey, Monroe uses this type of product. Right. Could we help out our boy with a slice of pizza over here? Very good. Hey, so on the subject of receiving endorsements or sponsorships, how critical have those been towards the development of your career? Would you say that those are just added perks, or would you say that those to some extent have given you more opportunity? Where do sponsorships fall on that end?
depends on sponsorship and how you use it. Like the sponsorships from the record pools, I need that stuff like every day in order to download music that I'm that I have the right to and that I could use without worry about it being like ripped or anything like that. Endorsements through like tune tracks. I still use that stuff, and that's invaluable because I use this every day, and it's a tool in writing music. And I feel like it could be transcribed anyway. So like tune tracks, they make this program called. Oh, there's no audio, huh? Hold on. No, there's. Hold up, I got it. So say if I'm working on like a country hit, I just change this kit. And this is literally what I do is I go through here if I'm like working on a country song. But they have like different packs of this where I can go through and just.
And so Easy Drummer sponsored you?
Yeah, Tune Tracks, the company that makes Easy Drummer.
Okay.
So they have like pop, they have electronic, all this stuff, so they can give me like generate ideas for me, like if I'm in writer's block, or if I play the guitar, I can hook this up to. Or I mean, it's all connected, but. I can hook it up and I can play along with these songs and demo out stuff, but I can also open that up as a VST in Ableton and then like drag those MIDI notes and put them on timeline and make my own instrument. Okay. That's another topic, but yeah.
They've given you additional resources to continue honing in and perfecting your craft when it comes to the creation of music. Mm-hmm. Very cool, very cool. Do you have any suggestions for either anybody in the audience or anybody that might be even watching at home? How they can go about by securing sponsorships of their own. What things should they look out for? What things should they be aware of? But even when starting a conversation with a company and saying, "Hey, pay attention to me. You should sponsor me."
Man, if I had the email that I sent to Orange Amps. So the perfect example of that is I wanted to get endorsed by Orange Amplifiers. That was a long shot. If anybody knows who Orange Amplifiers is, like. So that was a super big long shot. They have a huge roster of like people that I look up to. That's another thing. I would want to go for people that I look up to, or say if there's this plugin like Kick2 and all these artists are supporting it and I use it a lot and I don't want to pay for a license anymore. I would hit up Kick2, or I would try to start out with a smaller company starting out, and I would hit them up and say lie to them or be honest with them and say like, I love your product, I use it all the time.
Okay, so what specifically are we lying about how much we love the product, or
maybe I use it all the time, maybe you want to use it all the time.
Okay. white lies, right?
I'm just going to this website that I always tell people about, Melodics.
Okay, so you're like, hey, I really love your product. I use it all the time, or I intend to use it all the time.
Which Melodics is a really cool application. So you can take literally your DJ keyboard or your DJ controller. You can take a MIDI keyboard like I carry around every day with me, like this. 4 pads. This is also for Akai, if they want to endorse me too.
Shout out to
Akai. No,
we love their products.
So I can hook this up to my keyboard. I even have all the chords right now too. This is a tool that I use like every day for real. Hold on. So when I go into settings, right? Connected hardware. Map your controller. So it's going to pick up my keys.
Easy.
OS default, external headphones. Learning. Lessons. It needs 49 keys. Okay, so I can continue. These are all courses that I've already done. All right. Okay, so you get the point, right? Now, not only can you do it that way, but if you go into settings or you go to switch instrument, boom, continue with pads. Then I go to learning, and it's already mapped out.
So how is this tool particularly useful for your when it comes to your electronic music career?
So there's different lessons that you can go through. If I'm working on a different genre, it'll get my fingers warm every day. Or they have like DJ cue routines, like on cue pads. You know what I mean? They have breaks like drum and bass. They have house, and it gets. Whenever I'm producing, I like to work with hands-on instruments
Right.
rather than my keyboard and my mouse. But if I'm working on hip-hop, my like finger work is going to be way different than if I'm doing house. It's
Right.
just different layout and such. So
say that you find a tool like Melodics and you say, hey, I really love this program, I really love this application, this service. How does then the conversation develop into this is something that I potentially may want to partner or work alongside with?
well, let's see if I can pull up those emails and I can show you exactly how it went.
Oh, can I read it?
Yeah.
Hi there.
Wait, here's the first one. It started in 2017.
Okay, 2017.
Here's me. This is exactly what I did. Crazy, okay?
Great.
I would like to be the beta test. I would like to beta test Melodics. I use it all the time. Here's into what info on me. Yeah.
And then that's where he puts in all his
I put in-
accreditations,
yeah.
everywhere he's played, a lot of the same information that we saw in his EPK.
Right. In my inquiry, this was like they had already asked me what kind of stuff I was running.
Right, his operating software on his computer.
And then so he said, thanks for reaching out. This sounds great. What's your email address?
What's your email address?
Against your account, we will give you beta access.
Okay, easy.
And he's like, do you also own any electronic drums by any chance?
All right. Then they send you the information. They say, hey, click here.
Right. And then they sent me all this stuff. And then this is just more of like,
Okay.
about the beta testing.
So it says, hi there. We are reaching out to you as we want your help with user testing melodic keys. This is an opportunity to help us develop the way the product looks
Right.
and influence what the
And this
features
was
will be.
before the keyboards part came out.
Okay.
So this was like before this was even big. Like,
Okay. So sometimes it seems that it can be as simple and as easy as just sending an email, a kindly worded email. Hey, I love your product. I'd love to get involved in some way or another. Now, a really interesting thing that Monroe opened up with is a lot of business owners are expecting you to almost telepathically know what needs to be done and for you to fit your place in that. Monroe wasn't like, hey, I love your product. Send me something free, please. It was like, hey, I really love your product and I'm specifically interested in beta testing your product. So it was very clear for him to get a yes or a no answer by being so straightforward and direct. And I think that that's something to take account of, because not only did he say, not only do I love your product and here's what I want to do with your company, but he then followed up by, here's the reasons of why you should even bother with me. Listing all the reasons that were provided in his EPK, aka resume, that gave him credibility and really established himself in front of a company that may have not even known that he existed in the first place. So it seems that whenever you're beginning this conversation, first, appreciation for the product and what they do, followed up with what your intention is. Hey, I want sponsorship, I want free gear. In return, I might be like, let's say if you were wanting a sponsorship for the headphone company, how would that conversation go with there, Monroe? If, let's say, you're looking to sponsorship for headphones, how would that be different? Would it be like, hey, like I have over 100,000 followers and I take a lot of really cool photo shots. Here's some pictures of my Instagram.
That's one way I did it.
Right.
I needed some in-ear monitors for tour, and I met this company at NAMM. I had my that was the first thing. Headphones company, they don't need any endorsements. People are going to use their stuff anyways. There's one company called Me Headphones. I don't know. They sell them at like Fry's, but they're also really good quality in-ear monitors, but they're super cheap, and they endorse a lot of artists. And I go look at the level of like their endorsement, but I didn't go for them. I went for like West Tone. I went for Alien Ears. Like, I don't know if you've heard of them. Either way, they're pretty big. But
did any of them respond?
Yeah, a lot of them responded, but I was trying to get this shit for free, and they weren't trying to have that. But I did find one company that all it takes is one. They said if I went and got my impressions done, that they would send me a pair.
Okay.
And in exchange, I had to put them in a video, which comes in handy whenever I have the resources from all the favors that I did before.
Right.
Hey, I need this promo video done of me with these headphones, and I need this photo shoot done with me and this guitar. I need this photo shoot done with me and this whatever.
Right. I want to actually go back to that point, because a lot of folks in the industry, especially when you're starting off, you're like, oh, I want to be a musician, so all I'm going to do is create music and DJ, and that's the way that I'm going to make it. And a lot of people fail to realize that it goes a lot farther when you're not only pushing your own individual efforts, but you're pushing in the efforts and helping others achieve their goals. Once again, going on the subject of mutually beneficial relationships. So by Monroe wearing many hats, for example, not only is he a musician, but he's a graphic designer, and he can also not only DJ electronic music, but he can also DJ at these midtown bars and spots. Not only can he also do that, but he can, you have mixing and mastering experience, right? Yeah, he does songwriting, not only for EDM music, but for country, from a variety of different genres. It gives him an opportunity to get access to people that have either much better resources, much higher reputation, or even much better experience. And as a consequence that he can build a relationship from using those assets that he's developed from himself, he then can be in a position of saying, yo, by the way, here's my track. By the way, this is what I'm working on when the conversation comes up. And then they, in turn, might be able to push him in a direction that might allow him to achieve his needs, whatever goals he has. So right now we're coming a little bit close to the last couple minutes here of our workshop. From the last 15 years that you've been in the music industry, and even looking back now, what are some suggestions or some advice that you'd give a younger Chris Monroe now with the experience that you have?
Younger me?
Yeah.
Oh, man. No regrets.
Okay.
Do it all again, just the same.
Okay. And let's
Fuck
say
it.
if it weren't just for Chris Monroe, but let's say for some of the audience members that we have here or some of the fans watching at home that are interested in pursuing the music industry as a profession, as a career, what suggestions do you have for them?
Don't do it. No, I'm just joking. Make room for us still. No, Figure out what your goal is. All right. On a serious note, somebody told me this that was way smarter than me. That's why I'm saying it now. Figure out, Ethan, like for example, I told you, figure out those small goals that you want to accomplish. Like, how do you get from here to that light switch? You know what I mean? In order to turn it off, it might not seem like a long-term goal, but it's going to give you a sense of gratification that you finish that goal first. So how do I do that? Well, I'm going to get out of my chair. I'm going to move around this table. I'm going to watch out for that chair. I'm going to go to the light, and I'm going to turn it off. Damn, that felt great. What's the next thing I can do? I'm going to go turn off the light at the front of the venue. How do I do that? Well, it's going to be a longer trip. Got a little bit more obstacles in my way, but I just completed those other obstacles, so I'm sure that these are going to be easy. So it's all about setting these little goals for yourself that are not out of reach, but the ones that are within reach that you can create, that you can make yourself.
Right.
Little milestones, and then once you hit those little milestones, then those little milestones become bigger milestones, and you look back and you look at all the stuff that you've done, and it might not seem like a big deal, but to other people it is, because they'll start asking you, how did you just turn on that little light switch? You know what I mean? And then you're able to share it with them because it wasn't that big of a deal to you. You know what I mean? And I don't know
So
if
it
that
sounds
was
like
good.
it's the way that you look at it is from a game of small accomplishments that eventually turn into big accomplishments in the long run.
Yes.
Okay, so it seems that a lot of consistency is necessary in order for you to continuously make these small little steps that then turn into milestones. Well,
But knowing your goals,
right.
knowing what you're trying to do, for sure, and not second guessing it. If you want to put this song out by this date, there's certain deadlines and things that you have to have accomplished, whether it's the drums or whether it's the arrangement or whether it's the synth work, whether it's the bass, in order for it to be a complete song.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. It can go off of over anything. It doesn't have to be just music or music oriented. It could be, getting a job at Pizza Hut.
Yeah. So
Shout out Pizza Hut.
as a brief summary of what we've discussed today so far, Monroe went over how he got started in the music industry. He first started off as a rock artist, right? And so now he's at the stage in where now he's pursuing EDM. Got an opportunity and experience to hear some kind words from Sonny Moore himself. Ended up working in a variety of different scenarios that allowed him future opportunities. Not only by him pushing individually his brand, but by him wearing hats that facilitated in the development of others. And then ultimately, we went over the EPK, specifically what can help organize you and put you in a position and where you two have a way of being able to showcase who you are as an artist and how others can actually get people to notice you, how they can actually start paying attention. Once again, as a really cool recap and as a really good, awesome gift to give to you guys, we will be providing you the template. The template itself will be, we'll find the link for it at the bottom of the video once we get it uploaded. So with that said, do we have any questions from the audience? Now is a good time for questions. Peyton.
Which part? I've never spent money on anything like that. Yeah, if you're doing the right thing, you should never have to pay to put out your music. I'm saying that, but if you want to skip a lot of bullshit, you can pay to get out your music. But if your music's good, somebody will find you and they will put it out for you. Like all of my stuff that we charted on Spotify, all that stuff, that has nothing to do with me, and I can never take any credit for that. It was been a collective, getting verified on Twitter, getting verified on Facebook. That has nothing to do with me. And if I had to do it by myself, I'd be spending a lot of money. But that's through, label, management, all that other stuff. So yes, it is an investment.
Look, Peyton, like you could make music. Sonny Moore produced his first album for out of nothing but a MacBook. No additional instruments, nothing else.
But that
was
costs money.
included.
So I see what he's saying.
Right. So ultimately, there is there's a cost of doing business. But earlier during the workshop, Monroe had explained of how you can make it substantially easier and more efficient financially for you if
With the
you're-
endorsements.
Right. If you're providing some level of value, either to companies or to other people,
Right.
he would provide graphic design support for somebody that would then in turn help him with video work. So there's different ways in where you can make your way in this industry without having to show a whole bunch of money. Not because you're cheating or trying to be cheap, but rather you're providing service or value in a different way. Exactly.
Right.
Mutual beneficial relationships. That's what we call them. Any other questions?
NAM? Did I mention NAM?
You mentioned now.
Oh man, NAM is a dream. Seriously. So National
Back in '61.
NAM.
National Association of Music Merchants, commonly called NAM.
It's an annual event in the U.S. that organizes and describes world's largest trade-only event. So it's like tighter than the Geneva Convention to get in this place. You're only allowed in if you're a vendor or an artist. I was invited by a couple of companies that endorsed me. That's how I got to go. And I got to meet a lifetime of freaking connections. It's just literally imagine Pioneer being there or
Pantheon Music
Kai,
Academy.
Native Instruments, anything. Every company you can, Seagate, Apple, GoPro, Shure, literally every company that has anything to do with audio, sound, or music is there. Every drum company, everything. And they're demoing out their products and they're showing you the next stuff for the next year. So they're already talking about 220 NAM. So all these companies, there's 3 stories of companies from all over the world that are trying to show you their product. And that's whenever I would go on, not the main floor, but the lower floor to see what the companies who are up and coming were and see what they were working on and then try to make deals with them about getting their equipment. Because there's tons of companies that have crazy synths that are just like Moogs, you know what I mean, that are $100.
Very cool. Any last questions? Very cool. All right, guys. Without further ado, let's go ahead and give Monroe a round of applause. Can we switch over to our Pantheon screen? Shows? Guys, thank you so much for joining. We're on once again. This is our 40th workshop here at Pantheon Music Academy. We're super pleased to have Monroe. We're expecting Johnny Bunn next week, which is the Houston Titan of music events. So he's going to be talking about how he brought up virtuosos and all the things yet to come. Last but not least, we do have a Patreon. We will be providing a link in the description below. Okay, no worries. We'll have a link below and on how you guys can support us. Thank you guys so much for just showing up and even just being here. We seek to serve the greater community and bring insight on how to enter the music industry, whether it be as a musician, whether it be as a creator or a facilitator of any sort. So thanks to you guys. That's why we're here. Without further ado, once again, thank you guys for coming.
What's up?
Vietnam.
Vietnam. I've been to Vietnam.
That does not sound like a very pleasant